Hello guys, Crowan here, and I'm bringing you the 5.2 patch notes for Druids. Okay, so first up you've got Cyclone now has a 30-second cooldown for Feral Druids. In addition, it will now share diminishing returns with Banish, Seduction, Bind Elemental, Hex, Freezing Trap, Wyvern Sting, Gouge, Sap, Hibernate, Paralysis, Polymorph, Ring of Frost, Repentance, and Quaking Palm. This kind of makes a big change for Cyclone. Forever, Cyclone's been on its own DR, and it's pissed off anyone, and it meant that Druids could pretty much play with anyone CC-wise because they had a separate CC that was on a different DR to everyone else. And this is a big nerf to Druids, like just flat out nerf. It means there's going to be a lot of comps you can't play, but it also means in general that there's only two different types of big CC then, so like 8-second CC, which is Fears, and what we'll call is magical stuff. So Cyclone, all those ones I just basically read out will be the other set. And so you're going to get people wanting to play with Warlocks, Priests, and Warriors more than you'll get wanting to play with anyone else. And it will mean like a lot of comps feel a bit more horrible when they change this. But we'll have to wait and see. Either way, the 30-second cooldown for Feral Druids, I'll just explain that really quick. Like, Feral Druids are really OP right now, and this is to stop them instant casting, because they can get an instant cast Cyclone up every time they get 5 combo points, which is 3 globals. And so if you want to work that out, if they're, and they've got, like, Feral Druids got really good uptime, it's going to take them about 4 seconds, roughly, maybe 5 if it's not going great, but 5 seconds and they can get an instant cast Cyclone. And only if they use it on that same target again does it DR. So you can now look at it as like, oh shit, that's crazy. So they pretty much always have one. It can be dispelled, but this is just going to ensure that they aren't spamming it on everyone. I do think this is a bit too harsh of a cooldown. I think something around 25 is better, but this is still the PTR note, so whatever. Okay, second point is Symbiosis, and they're changing the Shattering Blow part. Basically, Druids had a Shattering Blow instant cast version, and that made it a kind of OP. So they removed that, and now it's just cast time 1.5 second cast, the same as the Warriors, which is fair, and to be honest, it was overpowered when it didn't have that. Next, we have Displacer Beast, which got redesigned, and this is another big nerf for Druids, like, really horrible for them, but it now triggers cat form and grants 50% increased movement speed instead of making you stealth. It also still teleports you forward, and, you know, that move speed increase lasts for 4 seconds. But no longer activating Prowl is a big thing. This is going to mean that Druids are a hell of a lot better target to go on than they was. And it means that they're going to be focused. So that will mean they'll have to get resilience like everyone else. Okay, so next up is Cenarian Ward. Now grants 100% increased healing. That's basically just to make it more of a viable talent. Like, nobody really took it or even considered it. Now it looks like it might actually be worth it, especially if you're playing Feral or something like that where you don't have much healing apart from your instant cast. Although they have tried to make, by nerfing Cyclone, they've made Healing Touch instant cast more of a viable thing, or more of a thing that you want to do. So people might be using that. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Next up, we have Frenzied Regeneration. Now scales 10% more efficiently with attack power. And this is a great buff, really. I think that, you know, if it just makes sense to you like this, if I said, right, before, instantly converts up to 60 rage into up to 200% of attack power minus 400% of agility, or 250% of stamina, and then as health, right? And now it's going to be 220% and 440%, or 250% of stamina. So it's like a big amount anyway. It's like that 10% is gonna a big. It'll look small when you think, but if you do the math, it's actually quite a lot. And 60 rage for when you're in bear form, not that big of a deal really if you need that health. So right, next up we have Tooth and Claw. Now scales 10% more efficiently with attack power. That's basically just a buff, a flat out buff to Tooth and Claw. Any Feral Druid will know what Tooth and Claw is, so I don't really need to go into that too much. It's just basically it's a damage buff. Mastery Nature's Guard Guardian, so that's the tank one. That made any sense to you. They basically buffed the armor by 2%, just a bit of a mitigation buff for lovely tanks. Rejuvenation now costs approximately 9% less mana, means you can get more rejuvenations off. Next up we have Revive and Mark of the World, now costs 55% less mana. Revive obviously is so you can they can get people back alive after they've died and whatever. You still got to cast it 10 seconds, so you know that's fine. And then you have Mark of the World, now costs 55% less mana, just so they can rebuff easier. That's probably going to help loads in Arena, which, well, for any good player. Like, good players tend to keep their buffs up, try to keep them up all the time, so, you know. Next up, Fairy Swarm can now snare more than one target at a time. This is actually quite a big buff, and might not make sense to many people, but Fairy Swarm is a talent, and it's just, like, mostly looked at by not ferals, because they get passive slow, but it's for Moonkins and stuff. But to be honest, I don't think you're going to want to trade it, because the trading would be for Typhoon, which actually is going to get a nerf, so, and Mass Entanglement, and Mass Entanglement's also getting a buff, so it's going to be, Mass Entanglement's going to, actually I'll talk about it in a minute. But basically, comparing the three, fair enough, like, reduces the target's movement speed by 50%, awesome stuff, but it's not, you know, it's not like worth trading out a whole new move, like Typhoon or something, like this, like, feels like a big change. Like, you can knock people off the edge. You can't Fairy Swarm someone, you know, slow them so much that they never hit you again, you know. But Typhoon is a game changer, and so on Z-axis maps, you're always going to take Typhoon. Mass Entanglement will probably get some more love, because if you're a Moonkin, you'll know that right now Warriors are pretty much strong against you, and they'll see Rogues and stuff are getting a buff this patch coming. You know, that'll be like, oh, I use Mass Entanglement, stops everyone reaching me. Thank you, now I'm out of the way. And that's going to be why you take it. But Fairy Swarm, it's slowing people. I don't know, unless you've got like some sick idea for a kiting comp, it doesn't feel like it's going to be worth it. Okay, next up, Mass Entanglement now has a 30-second cooldown, and it was 2 minutes, so that's OP really. Amazing change. It's going to bring it into line with Frost Nova. It says roots your target for 20 seconds, but it's obviously not going to be that. Otherwise that'd be overpowered. Can get 5 targets, can be used in shapeshift forms, and I don't know, I think this is a great move for it. Nobody really took it, because, well, why would you take it over something that's like Typhoon? So everyone just took Typhoon, and now they've put this in. I feel like it's a really good talent, very viable, and we'll have to wait and see how people use it. Like I said, people are going to probably use Mass Entanglement for against melee cleave comps now, unless it's a Z-axis map. Z-axis I mean by where it's like, it's got, you know, like different height levels, so you can chuck people off and then they can't get back up. Next up we have Typhoon got a nerf. It was 20-second cooldown. It's now going to be 30-second cooldown. Really, this needed it. It probably even needs more. Maybe, I think it was something about 33 seconds. But I don't know. I don't think they're going to bother pissing about 3 seconds. I think they should, though. Mostly because they'll chuck you off. You come back up off the, you know, let's say you're on Blaze Edge. They chuck you off the bridge. You run all the way back up. And then by the time you've got back up, right, they have to, like, cast, they have to use it, like, you might get, like, 2 seconds on them. And then they chuck you off again. And really, like, that's kind of annoying, and most of the time it's like you stun them or something for those seconds and then goodbye, straight off the edge. And, you know, I don't feel like that's fair. Obviously it's positioning and stuff. If you position well, then they can't do it, or it's harder to do it, and you've just got to try and stand in the right place at the right time, really. Next up we have Force of Nature, now deals more damage and healing, so they're basically it's a flat buff to that. And the tooltip's also going to change, so it reports the abilities. So it's a good buff change, whatever. Like, it's basically what it's going to do is like allow people to understand it a bit more, and also like it having a damage buff is going to be really good. If you compare like the other talents you get against it, you get Soul of the Forest and Incarnation, and those are both really good right now. And I don't think people are going to want to switch out for them, but I think it's going to make it more viable, especially again when you're playing any sort of cleave comp. It's going to make you want to take Force of Nature more, especially if you're Feral Druid with the bash and stuff. You get like it basically adds bash to all of them, so it's like random stun that happens quite often. Well, if you put it on a healer, it like messes them up big time. So I'm surprised nobody hasn't taken it already. Seems like you may as well keep your stuns for the target you're healing, and then just chuck that at the healer. But I don't know why they ain't doing it. I don't know. I think it's because the Incarnation is really good. Like, you get the improved cat form and stuff, so, you know. Okay, next up, Soul of the Forest. Right, they changed it for Balance, Guardian, and Resto. So Balance now generates 40 lunar energy upon leaving Eclipse. It's a great buff. I can't say enough about that. That's really good. Any Boomkin's probably loving that buff. Guardian now gets 3 additional rage per mangle, which is pretty big. It was 2, so, you know, obviously, oh, balance was did get 20 energy and now gets 40, so it gets solar and lunar, by the way. Restoration now grants 70% haste. It was 50, and so although they're saying on the one tooltip it says 75%, so I'm not sure. I think it's going to be 75. Probably 25% increase seems good. So yeah, that's actually a really good buff for those three. Feral didn't get changed because they're OP right now. So next up we have Nature's Vigil. Now has 90-second cooldown, was 3 minutes, and so they halved it, and now increases damage and healing done by 10% and was 20%. Basically, this is to stop massive bursts coming through. Nature's Vigil is the level 90 talent that basically is super damage buff for them. Like you'll see a lot of people run it, and it is all for the damage. Like people do, restos do take it sometimes for the healing and stuff, but it's mostly people take it as a big damage cooldown. And they're trying to take all of the damage cooldowns that are 3 minutes and cut them in half, and then half the damage on them. So you can use them more often, so it sets up the damage more regularly. So you can still use all your trinket and everything. So you'll pop this cooldown, that cooldown, this cooldown. So you pop like maybe 3 cooldowns at once, and then it adds up to 30%. Instead of every 3 minutes, you get 60%. You can see why there's that change, and it's because like if you was hitting 80k, you might be now hitting, you know, 90k or 100k maybe, right? With like 30% increase overall, like damage. Let's just say it was 30%. I know it's like crit and everything's and haste and whatever else, but this, instead of having 130k crits, and so it's like 3 of those, and then someone's gonna be looking at dead. But with this change, it's gonna mean that, oh look, you know, it's like 4 or 5 of those, and then that means it's not such a big painful experience for healers and stuff, and it should balance the game more or less. I don't know, then it will come down to like pressure that you can build outside of cooldowns. So you need to like be able to get a trinket before a cooldown or whatever, but you won't actually, that's how it is at the moment anyway. You need to get a trinket before your cooldowns, and now you'll be able to use your cooldowns to get a trinket, and then and the enemy needs to do that as well at the same time, kind of thing. And it's going to be a race, kind of. And it's like, if you don't get a trinket, whatever, then you've won the game mostly. And so it's going to be all about those trinkets and those defensive cooldowns getting used at the right times. And so it's going to actually add in a lot more skill. That's it from all of the Druid changes. I'm happy to say that it feels balanced. I know for every feral's going to be screaming at me right now. It's like, there's no way there's any balance! This is a horrible set of changes! What have you done? And I'll say I feel bad for them, because really they are getting shafted big time, but they are overpowered right now. And all of the high rated players are like, yeah, they're so overpowered. And all the low rated players are like, I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't even seen a druid that's feral. And that's why, like, literally, because I haven't seen a feral druid. But if you think of it like this, they have a 20-second cooldown, or currently, 20-second cooldown on Typhoon, right? A pretty much, well, 0 cooldown on Cyclone, but they obviously have to build it up. So it's probably about 5 to 10-second cooldown on Cyclone. So it's a bit like Blood Fear, but it's Cyclone, so you can immune someone from healing someone. And they also have a Healing Touch, which actually can hit really hard on themselves, because they're a cat and they get increased healing done to them. And with these things just added up, and they also do crazy damage. So sort of like, and you also have your stuns, so it's like, you're like a warrior, and you're not a warrior. Which just sounds mad. It's like a warrior with healing and a good CC. This, like Fear, but on, like, no cooldown. And, you know, they've managed to escape away with this for a while. They also can get out of every single root or a snare, and that's overpowered. And really, I feel like they should have got rid of that somewhat, but they've not got rid of it. I think they are, like, trying to keep that because they want to have someone who can smash up mages really well. And monks can do it pretty good, and enhancement shamans can do it pretty good, but they need to get next to them, and that's the hard part. And feral druids don't have any problem with that. So we'll just have to wait and see, but I hope you liked this video. If you did, please leave a comment below. Also, just leave any feedback you have on the video. I'd really appreciate any feedback you have, and I will speak to you again soon. Goodbye!